guys are ready to go on the road. Pretty good. You girls got to sing more.
Yeah, we're trying to do that.
I want to hear Connie a little bit more.
Yeah.
Let's see, this month is Divine Order and Wholeness. And I want to start off by talking about wholeness. You know, we think about wholeness as something to attain. We want to have this state of wholeness. We want to heal. We want to get to that point. And I don't see wholeness as a state to get to. I see it as something that's ongoing all of the time. And I want to explain a little bit, came up with a little bit of an explanation or an example to give you some idea of where I'm going. So you think of a pie or a cake, and it's a whole pie. But then you cut it up, and you put the pieces on the different plates, and you hand it out to everybody. But essentially, you still have a whole pie, even though it's all these different pieces. And we're the same. However we are is whole, with all our different aspects at any moment of the time. So I'm going to make it simple because you could have millions of these going on. But think of cycling, and we're going to use the example of a clock. And I'm going to talk about like the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So we'll have 4 clocks. And it cycles. You'll be in your life and you're thinking something's missing. Or something that maybe a memory comes up, or something triggers, and you have a feeling going on. And then you go and you talk to your friends, and you start talking about it and what's happening, and they give you their idea, and you work on it, and then you keep working. You process it, and maybe you go to classes, or you go to the doctor, or you go get counseling, or see your minister, whatever it is. There's this thing where you process in this cycle. And then there comes a point where you are thinking that you've got it handled. And like the onion, you may have it handled for that period, but it could come around again. But when you have a lot of it going on, you could have, say, in my spiritual life, think of the clock. In my spiritual life, maybe I'm at 12, which we'll call a good place to be for me. A good baseline set point, life is good. Then over here, I've got my mental, and maybe it's not going too well today. Maybe the voice is going on, and a lot of things are happening, so I'll put that maybe at a half, which would be a 6. So now I've got 18 out of 48. And then I've got a physical going on, and maybe I've got a cold or something's happening, so I'm really feeling sucky, and that's a 1. So I'm up to 19 out of 48. And then over here, what am I missing? Spiritual, mental, emotional. So if I'm feeling yucko, I'm probably depressed, or I don't want anybody to bother me, and leave me alone, and just the world go away. So maybe that's a 1 or a 2. So you would think that you were trying to attain the 48, but you're not. Think of wholeness as an index. It's an index of where I am at any moment in time. So it's neither good nor bad. It's just a fact for what's going on in my life. So if we're perfect, whole, and complete at any point in time, whatever that number is, or whatever the state you are, is okay for that moment in time. So then you have divine order. Well, divine order says that in the perfection, we are doing what we're supposed to do, having the lesson we're supposed to have, doing whatever it is. Maybe I'm exhausted and I need the cold because that puts me in bed. Maybe the other is a wake-up call. Think of like your car. That's a good one for me. If something's going wrong with my car, I always look at what's going on for me. And it helps me to show. So when you're doing this index evaluation of where you are, it gives you a good idea of what's going on with you. It's a tool. And knowing that it's in divine order makes it okay. It's neither good nor bad. I'm not passing, I'm not failing. I just am. So I take this index regularly. How am I doing? What do I need to work on? Where's my next step? But I can have this going on in all these different areas of my life at the same time. And that's okay, because that's how it works. We're constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly being something more. We're different. This minute I'm here, this minute that's my past, but it's really my now, which gets really confusing, but it's okay. You don't have to worry about where you are. If you just say, today the fact is, I don't feel good. That's okay. That's not a right or a wrong. You don't have to feel guilty about it. I can remember when they used to teach metaphysical guilt and you'd be sick. Oh God, I shouldn't be sick because I'm supposed to be doing treatment and I'm supposed to be able to do all of this. And no, nobody's going to respect me anymore, ask me to do prayers from because I'm sick. It really can screw with your mind. And it's okay to say, you know what, I'm exhausted. Maybe I made a couple choices that weren't working, like I worked too long, or I said too many yeses and committed to too many things, or I procrastinated and then it all piled up to a crisis. Whatever that is, it's okay. And if you don't go away with anything else today, go away with wherever you are is okay. It's just a fact. And then you wonder, how does divine order, divine right action, divine right timing work into all of this? How do prayers work in with this? You come in here and you ask for prayers, and practitioner assures you it's gonna happen. I know it. I see the truth, and the truth is, it is. A year later, and you still don't have whatever you asked for. Because there's a time in all of these cyclings where you're ready for something or not ready for it. Just think of some of the things you asked for and all the things that have to go together. I can remember being in the airport one time and I was at the Starbucks there. Place was packed and a lady came and asked if she could sit with me. Well, of course. She started talking about, she was going somewhere to get electroshock therapy. And she needed to hear some of the things that I had to say. And we had this great conversation. Think of me as the answer to her prayer. How hard did God have to work in that big computer in the sky to get everything together so our flights came in together and we were at the right place at the right time and all of that to make it happen? There is a logistical part of getting our prayers answered. And that's part of the cycles that are going on with us and the choices we make. And that's why it's really important to let everything be in the flow and the way it is. Yes, I have to do divine right action. I have to do my part. When I'm working on these cycles, I do the things that I need to do. I try to pay attention and turn where I'm supposed to turn, or go to the store I'm supposed to go to, or to go learn something, to read the book, to take the class. If I want a job, I need to have my resume ready. All the prayers in the world won't do me any good if I don't have an outfit, transportation, and my questions answered, and my resume. I need to be able to show up. So it's important that we do our part. And it's a dance. You can see now where it's all cycling together, all going together. And it's beautiful when you can step back and see it. It's amazing sometimes. It's like, you know, life is pretty good. Maybe this isn't working, maybe that isn't working, but this is. So you bring in your gratitude as a part of the wholeness process. I'm so grateful for what is working. And I'm grateful that I know I have the power to make the changes in the things that I think maybe aren't working, which are okay because I'm learning from that. It's all always okay, no matter what it is. You make a mistake, you learn from it. You make a mistake, you get up the next day and you do it differently. But that's okay too. It's okay to fail, or what we call fail. It's okay to make mistakes, or what we call mistakes. It's a process where we're learning and evolving. Rick has to go in the corner.
I said one word.
You did. You said one word.
That's all he said. She took it that way. I don't know.
But it's important to quit criticizing ourselves, to quit judging ourselves, to quit deciding that we're not good enough or didn't do good enough, or I'm so many years old, why haven't I handled that yet? Or why is that still bothering me? Well, it is because it is. It doesn't matter why it is. Again, it's just where I am in this moment. And if it's bothering me enough, I'll change it. If it's not bothering me enough, well, maybe that's okay too, because there are other things that are more important. Learning to love ourselves is one of the hardest things that there is to do. And it's a very difficult one. It took me years. I was in my 50s before I even got close to liking me. And then from there it had to evolve into loving and accepting. Excuse me, but that didn't happen overnight. And that was okay, because along the way I learned so much about me. What I didn't want to be, what I wanted to be, the kind of person I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to do, not what everybody else wanted me to do, not what everybody else expected me to do. To get the voice of my parents and my siblings and everybody else out of my head. And we all go through this. How many times do you feel like you failed because you didn't become the doctor or the lawyer, or you didn't make X amount of dollars, or your kids aren't doing so great? You've got kids that have issues. We all have kids that have issues. We had issues. Not everybody is going to have a kid who's president of the United States. It's just not going to happen. We need somebody that's serving us pizza, because I like pizza. So there's a place for all of us. And to accept it in our family and our relationships, that wherever they are is where God wants them to be. Whatever they're experiencing is what God wants them to experience. And then to allow that for you also. If you can't allow it for you and you can't love you, can you really love someone else? There's always a divide. We can't love ourselves, because that is the ultimate love, to be able to know that you can forgive yourself, not judge yourself, accept yourself, love yourself. And maybe it takes time. That's okay. No one's got a stopwatch on it. No one's checking it off that you didn't do this. Do you ever go to the cemetery and see the epitaphs or read the obituaries? Do you ever see the thing, all the things you didn't do? All the things you made sure to? Nobody's going to remember. You didn't make your bed today. Who cares? In 10 years, who's going to know? Do you even remember what you did last week? You've got to let yourself off the hook. And if you can do that, your wholeness starts working better. All those cycles are better because you're not judging. If you're not feeling guilty, it's sure easier to get well. If you're not feeling guilty about it and let yourself just make the mistake, it's easier to get up tomorrow and face it. Guilt keeps us from doing anything. Judging ourselves and declaring that we're wanting or that we didn't do it right keeps us from achieving our best. When we're in the flow and everything's okay, life's fun. You have fun, you can laugh about anything. If everything's sacred and humor's part of God, then you can laugh at everything. And when you do that, it makes it so much easier to get through the things. Well, I screwed up again. Well, okay. You know, that's another excuse or another example I can use with the grandkids. Well, this is how I did it, and this is how it worked out. There are all kinds of ways to be able to come to terms with who we are. Humor's a good one. Accepting us, that old thing about having to look in the mirror, I hated that. That took me forever to be able to, get there. You're supposed to kiss yourself and smile at yourself and accept yourself, and you're going, oh yeah, but. But when you learn to do it, it can really be a sacred moment. It can be very grace-filled, and it can really make you start to expand and open up, to be this fountain of love unfolding all the time. And to be loved, that's what the world needs. It doesn't need another frown. It doesn't need another grouchy person or an angry person. We've got plenty of those. It needs more love. And we have the opportunity to do that. That's what we're about here.